All right, welcome back to Health, Wealth, and Lamborghinis. My name is Jason, and here we are trying to build a dividend portfolio that can essentially pay for a Lamborghini. Now, this is going to take time. I'm aware of that, but I'll tell you right now, March has been the highest paying dividend month for me of all time. Now, I haven't been investing that long, but I'm really starting to see this snowball gain some momentum. So let's just jump right in to all the companies that paid me in March. Now, you guys remember in the last video, I went 100% all in on SCHD for my Roth IRA. Now, I made some mistakes and I covered that in my last video, but this month we got our first payment from SCHD in my Roth, and that payment was a whopping $51.32, almost enough to pay for an entire share. Now, I'll tell you right now, I am going to continue to contribute to my Roth IRA. I'm definitely going to max it out this year, so I expect that next quarter, when SCHD pays out, I will have enough shares in there to essentially buy an entire share. And that's what this dividend portfolio snowball is about, right? I almost did it this time. It really would have depended on the stock price and things like that. $51.32 for my first payment on SCHD. Very happy with. So now moving on outside of my Roth, this is my individual brokerage account. You guys can see here, my first payment was from AEP, American Electric Power Company, and I got a pretty big dividend of $11.44. And that just really started this month off right. To see over $10 just reinvested back into a company that I'm buying into, it felt really good. So just a couple days later, the powerhouse company Chevron, they paid me $6.52. Now, this stock has actually been on quite a rip lately, and this is one of the positions in my portfolio that is a little bit more responsible, right? It's not a crazy high yield. It's got a lot of room to grow, and I'm going to continue to build this alongside of some of my high yield dividend stocks. And you'll see in the next video, I actually made some pretty big purchases this month that are a little bit more dividend growth focused. So anyway, Chevron handed me $6.52. I'm going to continue to add to this position. Then just a few days later, Realty Income Corporation, of course, they paid me $2.58. Now, you guys know this is a monthly paying dividend stock. And, I really am going to add to this position soon. I almost pulled the trigger when it was like $51. I put a limit on it. I was like 5 cents off. And really in the big picture, what is 5 cents to me on a share? I'm making a lot of mistakes as a beginner. I think I put a limit at like $51.10, and I was going to buy like $10,000 worth of this stuff. And I think it got down to $51.17, and then it just kind of trickled back up. So I just need to be a little bit more mindful, like in the long run, really do I need to be messing with this stop limit, purchases? I don't know. I don't know if that's only really for day traders, or maybe I just think I'm getting like a slightly better deal if I like save a nickel, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Anyways, long story, Realty Income paid me $2.58. A couple days later, VYM, Vanguard's high yield dividend ETF. This was one of the first ETFs, the stocks that I invested in. And we got a whopping $10.19. So already my third payment for the month over $10, right? Pretty pumped about that. That is a position I'm going to continue to add to. I would like to get kind of like SCHD, enough shares of VYM. So every time I get a payment, I buy an entire share. And that's coming pretty soon. But that stock price has just been on an absolute tear. I remember in November, I was buying this stock. I think it was like high 80s, real low 90s, and now it's like 120. In hindsight, of course, like I probably should have bought a lot more, but I didn't know. I'm just getting started. And now I'm thinking, okay, well, this is at all-time highs. Do I dump a bunch of money into it now? I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring it out. I'm going to add to this position for sure. I just don't know if I'm going to do it when it's at its 52-week high. A couple days later, VOO, of course, Vanguard, basically the index that tracks the S&P 500, not really a dividend stock, although it does pay pretty decent dividends. I think it's like 1.5% or so. They paid me $3.15. Now, you guys know I have quite a bit of a cash balance in this account, And a lot of that is going to go into things like VOO. So I expect that over the next year to climb substantially. It could even turn into one of my top payers, to be honest. But just right now, again, when we're at all-time highs, do I want to just dump a bunch of money into VOO right now? I'm not sure, especially when you guys will see later, my money market account is making like 5.3%, and that's actually looking pretty good. So just a few days later, Bank of America, another stock that's been doing pretty well. Actually, all financials have been doing pretty well. They paid me $1.68. I don't have a huge position in Bank of America, but it's nice to see that the stock has got some momentum. I may or may not continue to add to this. I did make some purchases this month in a different section of financials that we'll talk about in the next video. So I may or may not keep Bank of America. I'm actually not sure yet. I don't bank with them anymore. The reason I invested with them in the first place is because I did have a car loan with them. But of course I paid it off, and then I was like, well, I don't really have any emotional ties to this company. They're not anything real special to me. So I may or may not sell out of this thing. I'm not sure. And then finally, obviously, you guys may or may not think this is a dividend stock, but my Vanguard money market account paid me. And you guys know I have quite a bit of cash here, and they paid me $1,113.67. Yeah, that's just an insane amount of money, to be honest, to make for basically nothing at all just by keeping cash in this account. And, this is pretty enticing. It's hard to move that money right now into the stock market when the money market account is making so much interest. I know in the long run, I can't keep my money here forever. But right now, while interest rates stay high, I'm in no rush to really pull this money out and dump it into VOO or things like that. So I'm just going to collect my $1,100 and change every month from just having money in there. And I'll use that money, to buy more shares of different stocks. And I will deploy that into the market. But right now, I'm pretty happy. So the grand total for all the payments I made in the month of March 2024, drum roll, $1,200.59. Yes, we actually might already be at the level to afford a Lamborghini if I got like some real cheap Gallardo or something with high miles and a rebuilt title or something. Obviously, that's not what I'm going for. And I would have to finance that car. Obviously, I kind of have the cash to pay for it, but, and if I'm just using my monthly income to pay for a car payment for the Lamborghini, I would have to wait until interest rates come down, because even if I found a $70,000 Lamborghini, if interest rates are still at like 6%, 7% on a car loan, it's probably going to be over this $1,200 mark. So we've got more work to do. We've got more capital to deploy into all my dividend stocks. I did make a lot of purchases this month. I can't wait to share those with you because some of them are interesting and I think a little bit more mature than my general portfolio right now. And in that video, I'll go over all my stocks, all my holdings. But before you guys leave, I want to show you guys my crypto. Of course, I got to check my Bitcoin and also my TSP, my Roth, basically 401k with the United States Navy. We hit a new milestone in that. So here we go. In Bitcoin, I've got $1,245. Now, this has actually been pretty good. If I look at my analytics just on Bitcoin itself, my performance is actually pretty good. My all-time returns here is $313, which is really good. My average cost here, $50,000, a little bit higher than it was last month. However, I am just continually dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin every week. I'm buying, I think right now $45 a week. And if this does happen to take a decent pullback, I might put a little bit more money in there. Like if we dip below 50 for whatever random reason, I might make a substantial purchase in Bitcoin. I don't know if I'll buy a whole Bitcoin, but I might throw a little bit more cash on it. And then my thrift savings plan with the Navy. Now, this is all in the C fund, which essentially is the S&P 500. And you guys can see here, contributions year to date, about $3,500, and that's 3 months. So you guys can see I'm putting in around $1,150 a month into this thing from my paycheck. And And I would like to increase that actually a little bit more. At this rate, I will not be maxing out for the year, right? I think the yearly limit's like 24,000 or something like that. I won't get there at this rate. So I might bump that up a little bit, but you guys can see here, $78,750. This thing has been on a rip lately, right? Up just year to date, up 10.5%. Now, obviously that probably won't continue forever, but it's nice to see that number climbing. And like I said a couple videos ago, right? My goal this year, I'll need some help with the stock market, is to get my TSP to $100,000. So maybe if I increase my contribution just a little bit, maybe the stock market continues to do well, we might hit that $100,000 mark. And, that will just be a really nice place for me to be. They all say like your first 100K is the hardest. And in my retirement account, the sooner I can get it in there, the better, because this is all going to be tax-free. All this S&P 500 in my Roth TSP, obviously tax-free, and then maxing out my Roth IRA with SCHD, also tax-free. So I think I'll be putting myself in a pretty good position. I'm not an expert. This is not financial advice. I'm just doing what I think is right, and I'm just going to keep doing it because I am seeing progress. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. In the next video, I will be talking about all my holdings, everything I bought this month, because it's a lot. See you guys in the next episode.